Hello and welcome to Heart Smart Education. This is our nutrition group class for Bronson Cardiac Rehab. I'm Andy Woolley and I'm your staff dietitian. Today's topics will include reviewing the Mediterranean eating pattern, going over heart-healthy fats that we'd like to prioritize in our diet, dietary fiber, identifying foods high in sodium, saturated fat, trans fat, and added sugars, reading the nutrition facts label, meal composition and portion sizes, and then we'll also go over some eating strategies for weight management. The Mediterranean style of eating can play a big role in preventing heart disease and stroke, as well as reducing risk factors such as obesity, diabetes, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. A Mediterranean style diet emphasizes eating more fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, and legumes. All of these foods have a higher fiber content and are very nutrient dense. The Mediterranean style diet also includes low-fat dairy products, fish, poultry like chicken and turkey, olive oil, nuts, and seeds. What it limits is a lot of intake of added sugars, higher sodium foods, refined carbohydrates like your white bread, white pasta, saturated fats, and fatty or processed meats. Now to review some dietary sources that are plant-based proteins. These plant-based proteins work really well as a replacement for meat. Now, I'm not saying you have to go vegan or, cut out all animal products, but definitely trying to be more flexible with our protein sources. So using some more black beans, Great Northern white beans, maybe making soups and chilies that use more beans instead of meat. Being open to using lentils, some soy products like tofu or tempeh, and maybe even using some more nuts and seeds or nut butters in cooking. These are some great examples of Mediterranean meals and how we can utilize more of those plant-based proteins. You'll see in the Black Bean Fiesta Bowl using black beans instead of steak or chicken with the rice, the avocado, the corn, and tomatoes. In the Mediterranean Chickpea Bowl, we're using chickpeas and falafel as the protein source. In the tofu stir fry, we're using tofu or that soy product. And then in the fruit and nut salad, we're using nuts and seeds. They also added some additional chickpeas or beans to the salad for some more protein. You can find more information and meal ideas for the Mediterranean eating pattern on the resources page at the end of this presentation. Now to review some heart-healthy fats. Replacing saturated fats with unsaturated fats can help with lowering unhealthy cholesterol levels. You can see some different dietary sources for our poly and our mono unsaturated fats here in the slide. So walnuts, more of your liquid at room temperature oils, such as your olive oil, canola oil, sesame oil, avocado, nuts and seeds. Those are going to be some great healthy fats that we would want to prioritize and use regularly in our cooking or as snacks. Omega-3s are another nutrient that we would want to increase for heart health. Increasing the intake of omega-3 fatty acids can help with lowering blood pressure levels and even lowering triglyceride levels to prevent hardening of the arteries and plaque growth. Some dietary sources that are very rich in omega-3s include walnuts, soybean and canola oil, ground flaxseed and flaxseed oil, and then more of our fatty fish. What's typically recommended for the Mediterranean eating pattern is consuming 2 servings of fish per week. You can see tuna, salmon, mackerel, herring, and lake trout are great options that are very rich in omega-3s. Dietary fiber helps to lower unhealthy cholesterols, control blood sugar levels, support bowel regularity, and also improve hunger management. We recommend a daily goal of consuming 25 to 35 grams of fiber. You can use the nutrition facts label to choose higher fiber options when you're shopping. If a food does not have a nutrition facts label, you can use an online food database to look up the dietary fiber information. I have included a food database example on the resources page at the end of this presentation. Dietary sources that are rich in fiber include fruits and vegetables, especially fruits and vegetables that have skins and seeds, whole grains such as your whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, brown rice, quinoa, nuts and seeds, and then legumes, especially beans. So adding more of your beans like black beans, chickpeas, great northern white beans, those would be great options to add to soups, salads, pasta dishes, chilies, stews, multitude of options there for adding some more fiber to your meals. Saturated fat is a nutrient that we would want to reduce in our diet for heart health. Increased saturated fat intakes can lead to elevated total and LDL cholesterol levels. Saturated fats are typically solid at room temperature. Some examples include fattier meats and processed meats such as brats, hot dogs, salami, some deli meats like bologna, higher fat dairy products like cream and butter, lard, and then coconut and palm oils are also high in saturated fat. You can limit your saturated fat to less than 6% of your total daily calories. This typically amounts to about 9 to 13 grams of saturated fat per day. The lower your calorie needs are, the less saturated fat should be included in your diet. Intake of trans fat can increase your LDL or your unhealthy cholesterol and may even decrease your HDL or your healthy cholesterol. Choose foods without hydrogenated oil in the ingredients list. Dietary sources that may still include trans fat are commercially fried foods, donuts or other baked goods and pastries, frostings, stick margarine and shortening, and some peanut butters or candy bars. As far as peanut butter, I recommend choosing a natural peanut butter that typically just has peanuts in the ingredients list. Increased sodium intake can lead to increases in blood pressure levels, fluid retention or swelling, shortness of breath for some, and an increased risk of stroke and reduced kidney function. So what is the daily recommended limit of sodium? We recommend less than 2,000 milligrams per day. So how much sodium is in 1 teaspoon of salt? About 2,300 milligrams. Make sure you don't go too low on the sodium. A good range for sodium intake is between 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams per day. This can help to prevent low blood pressure levels or electrolyte imbalances. Dietary sources that are higher in sodium content include any type of salt, including seasoning salts, table salt, kosher salt, cottage cheese and processed cheeses, such as American Kraft Singles or Velveeta, regular canned vegetables or frozen vegetables that come with a sauce, salted snack foods such as pretzels and chips, regular canned, smoked, and cured meats or deli meats unless they are low sodium, packaged instant cooking foods like pastaroni, rice-a-roni, some condiments such as soy sauce, salad dressings, and dipping sauces. When reading a food label for sodium, remember to check the serving size. All of the nutrition information, including the sodium content, is based off of the suggested serving size. So if we consume a larger amount, that means that we're having a larger amount of sodium as well. A nice goal is to aim to choose most foods with less than 200 milligrams per serving. This will help to make sure we won't go over our daily limit of 2,000 milligrams. Potassium is a nutrient that can also work to counteract some of sodium's effects on your body to help control blood pressure. Some common sources of potassium include fruits and vegetables such as avocados, tomatoes, potatoes, and bananas. If you have high blood pressure, I recommend you review the DASH diet plan. DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. You can find more resources for the DASH diet on the resources page at the end of this presentation. The American Heart Association recommends men and women to limit their added sugar intake if they have heart disease. For men, limiting to less than 36 grams, and for women to limit to 24 grams per day of added sugar. Foods and beverages that may contain added sugars are regular soft drinks, soda or pop, fruit drinks such as lemonade or fruit punch, sweets like candy, cake, cookies, pastries, pies, some dairy products that are sweetened such as ice cream, flavored yogurts, and flavored milk, some grains such as breads, cereals, and granola bars. Make a habit of looking at the nutrition facts label. Be aware of serving size, total fat, saturated and trans fat, sodium, carbohydrate and added sugar content, and dietary fiber. Reading food labels can be overwhelming. Keep in mind what your main concerns are for your health. If you have high blood pressure, pay closest attention to the sodium amount. If you have high cholesterol, pay closer attention to the total fat, saturated fat, and trans fat content of a food. If you have diabetes, I recommend increasing your awareness of the total carbohydrate, dietary fiber, and added sugar content of a food. If you have goals for weight reduction, choosing higher fiber foods and portioning to the suggested serving size is a great strategy to use. These are some helpful household items, or even using your hands to determine what an appropriate portion size is for a certain food. You can see a tennis ball is pretty equivalent to a medium piece of fruit, so you can use for whole pieces of fruit such as apples and oranges. A golf ball is equivalent to 2 tablespoons. This would be appropriate to use for peanut butter, jelly, ketchup, other dipping sauces, and similar condiments. The palm of your hand or a deck of cards equates to about 3 ounces. This would be a really nice portion size for your cooked meats, poultry, or fish. The size of a fist is about the size of 1 cup, so you can use this for cereal, pasta, rice, fruit, and vegetables. The thumb tip or 1 dice cube would be about 1 teaspoon. You can use for butter, margarine, sugar, honey, and similar condiments. 1 cupped handful equals 1 ounce of nuts or candy. 2 handfuls equals 1 ounce of snacks. You can use this for foods like nuts, small candies, chips, pretzel, and similar snack foods. If a food does come with a nutrition facts label, always check that suggested serving size. This plate planner is a great example of how we can visualize an appropriate meal composition. See the ruler at the bottom of the plate showing us that a nice plate size is about 9 inches. If we use a larger plate, we may take in bigger portion sizes. If we use a smaller plate, we may take in smaller portion sizes. What we'd want to do is try to portion about half of our plate to be made up of vegetables, especially your colorful vegetables, your dark greens, your oranges, your red, like your peppers, salad, broccoli, cauliflower, any of your favorites, portioning to about half of your plate. 1/4 of your plate would be starch, preferably more of those higher fiber whole grain foods. So your whole grain bread, brown rice, higher fiber pastas. And then the other 1/4 of the plate would be protein. That could be our plant-based protein like beans, lentils, soy products. It could be poultry. It could be fish or seafood. And then we could have a portion of fruit on the side, and always trying to prioritize water with meals or other calorie-free beverages. What we just looked at was an appropriate meal composition for a lunch or dinner meal. You can see some additional examples on the right. And then breakfast would be a little bit different. What we would do is prioritize a quarter of the plate to still be a starch or a whole grain, such as oatmeal, whole wheat toast, a higher fiber cereal like bran or Cheerios, and then our protein source. What we could do is low-fat dairy products like Greek yogurt. We could do a natural peanut butter or an egg. We could also include fruit or a dairy product if we're still hungry. Some heart-healthy snack choices include a low-fat cheese stick with applesauce, half of a cup of fruit with low-fat yogurt, a quarter cup trail mix using unsalted nuts and dried fruit, 5 whole grain crackers with 2 tablespoons of natural peanut butter, 3 cups of light or air-popped popcorn, or 4 tablespoons of hummus with whole grain pita and raw vegetables. What I like about these snacks is that they include a protein source and a higher fiber or more of a complex carbohydrate. This is important for blood sugar control and feeling more satisfied with the snack. We want to choose beverages with lower added sugar content, so choose calorie-free or low-calorie beverages most often. Some of these may include water, flavored waters, unsweetened tea, low-fat milk, and smaller portions of 100% fruit juice. If you have goals for weight reduction, try some of these eating strategies. Try to slow down when you're eating. Take breaks while you're eating to reflect on your hunger and fullness cues. And remember that it takes about 20 minutes for your stomach to send a message to your brain to know that you're full and satisfied. When you dine out, and if the meal is larger, ask for a to-go box right away and portion half of the meal. This can help with preventing overeating when you're distracted at a restaurant. Or you could also consider splitting a meal with someone. These are some additional resources that you can use to eat heart healthy. The American Heart Association has a really large recipe collection with quick and easy meals, slow cooker meals, grilled options. The DASH eating plan is for anyone who's trying to lower their blood pressure. Old Ways Cultural Food Traditions has a ton of Mediterranean recipes. And the Nutrition IX Tracker is a nutrition or food database where you can measure the amount of nutrients in your food, especially if it's a food that doesn't have a food label. Thank you so much for attending this Heart Smart Nutrition class. If you have additional nutrition-related questions, speak with your dietitian after your exercise session or Heart Smart Nutrition class. Andy, RD, is available on Wednesdays at BMH Cardiac Rehab, or she can be reached at 269-341-7533. Thank you.